The gavel crashed like thunder. Order in the court, the judge thundered, his voice cutting through the oppressive quiet like a knife. The sound echoed through the oak-walled room, shaking every chest within. For a moment, the whole courtroom stood still. Lawyers, spectators, even the bailiff. It was the kind of hush that precedes a storm. And at the eye of the storm sat Kody Brown. Once he was the proud father of a sprawling polygamous empire. Cameras trailed him, his wives, and his children into living rooms across America. He was a man who lived for control of his family, of his image, of his legacy. But today there was no camera crew to smooth over his reputation. No staged interviews. No spotlight he could manipulate. Today he wasn't in charge. Today he was caught. Kody sat rigidly at the defendant's table, his fists clenched on the slick wood. His blonde hair, once a beacon of his easygoing charm, hung flat, gray streaks threading through. He had on a black suit that seemed more armor than attire, yet his eyes, twitchy, restless, gave away the tension eating at him. In the other room, 3 women sat together yet separate, bound not by love, but by deceit. Meri, the initial wife, sat with a mask of icy haughtiness. Her mouth was pursed tightly, as if holding in decades of suffering. Janelle, practical as ever, sat forward with chin aloft, her lawyer's scribbles laid out neatly before her. And Christine's eyes blazed. She wasn't only here to win. She was here to reveal. To get even with Kody for every single broken vow, every fake smile, every secret he believed he had kept. The crowd hung forward, breathing shallowly. Even the reporters near the back had ceased writing, transfixed by the charge in the room. The air was so thick with secrets and tension that it was almost claustrophobic, as if the walls of the courtroom themselves were about to burst from containing what was on the verge of bursting free. Everyone believed they knew why they were there. A fight over money, property, custody battles knotted in a web of polygamy and TV contracts. A dirty but foreseeable struggle, the sort tabloids gorged on. But they were mistaken. Nobody, not the attorneys, not the judge, not even the wives themselves, was aware that a storm of revelatory truth was building. A storm so intense it would blow away everything they believed they knew about Kody Brown. And Kody sensed it approaching. The man on trial, he straightened up, trying to meet the judge's gaze. He reminded himself that he was still in charge, that he could still sweet-talk his way out of this, like he always did. For years, charm had been his best tool. With charm, he had seduced women, persuaded communities, and talked millions of viewers into believing in his vision. But charm wasn't going to work here. This wasn't his living room. This was a courtroom. And the fellow in the black robe sitting at the bench wasn't going to be swayed by meaningless words and rehearsed smiles. Kody's attorney moved into him, hissing urgently, "Calm down. Don't respond. They need you upset." Kody nodded numbly, but his gaze gave him away. He couldn't help searching the faces in the aisle. Meri refused to even glance at him. Janelle's face was serene, but she drummed her fingers on the table in restrained rage. Christine looked straight at him, unwinking, a challenge, unspoken. He gulped. They were no longer his wives. They were his enemies. The women's resolve. Meri tightened the collar of her jacket, smoothing out her face. She had been with Kody the longest, suffered the most from his changing affections and broken vows. There was a time she would have stood up for him against anyone, even her own uncertainties. But that time was gone. Today, she was not here as his wife. She was here as a woman demanding justice. Janelle moved in closer to her lawyer, whispering figures softly under her breath. Pragmatic, dependable Janelle had always been the practical one to handle budgets, to keep the family together when Kody's visions got too runaway. But she had found things, account books, transfers, discrepancies that didn't balance. Betrayal wasn't only emotional, it was monetary. And she wasn't going to let him dig the truth under. Christine leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. For years, she'd smiled in agony, played brave in front of cameras, raised kids in the shadow of Kody's abandonment. But she was finished. She'd left him once before. But this was different. Today wasn't an exit. Today was an unveiling. Today was showing him who he really was. The three women, once held together by allegiance to the same man, were now held together by something infinitely more powerful: betrayal. Whispers of the gallery. In the gallery, there were whispers. Neighbors who'd known the Browns. Reporters stalking the next scoop. Strangers who had watched the family's television drama from cohesion to shattering. All of them leaned in, starved for scandal, starved for the next revelation. "Do you think he'll lose everything?" one of them whispered. "Says he's been stashing money." Another whispered. "I heard there's a witness testifying," a third whispered, her voice low but excited. The tension was palpable, slithering through the courtroom, its hold increasing around each neck. The judge speaks. The judge cleared his throat, restoring order to the room. His eyes swept slowly, deliberately from the wives to Kody, onto the fidgety gallery. "This case is not about television," he stated definitively. "It is not about fame, or ratings, or public opinion. This case is about truth. And today, that truth will be heard." The words landed like a sledgehammer. Even Kody felt their impact. For the first time, his confidence faltered. He gazed once more at the women before him, at the eyes that at one time gazed at him with trust, with love, even adoration. Now the eyes gazed at him with the look of prey trapped by hunters. And in his core, a voice whispered what he had worked so hard to deny: "They know." The calm before the storm. As the judge shuffled papers, silence became suffocating. Ticking of the courtroom clock sounded like a drum. Each second drew out into timelessness. Kody's attorney drummed his pen anxiously. Christine's lawyer muttered tactics in her ear. Janelle fidgeted with her glasses, scanning the room for areas of vulnerability. Meri remained motionless, face impassive, although her hands vibrated ever so minimally in her lap. Nobody stirred, nobody breathed. Everybody waited for the first blow, the first revelation, the first rock to crack the delicate glass of pretense that kept the Brown family's secrets intact. And amidst the silence, one reality became irrefutable. This trial was not about money. This trial was about betrayal. This trial was about laying bare everything Kody Brown had struggled to keep concealed. And before the day was out, the world would be seeing him not as a father, not as a husband, not as a patriarch, but as a man teetering on the brink of destruction. The courtroom silence grew, heavy and tense. Kody Brown sat back in his chair, putting on a forced smirk. He could sense the pressure of each gaze bearing down upon him. His wives, the judge, the journalists scratching in their notebooks. But he would not appear to be afraid. Fear was weakness, and Kody had spent his whole life faking that he had none. "Your Honor," he started smoothly, his tone quiet, measured, almost disarming. "These charges are nothing short of bitterness. My wives resent me because I lived another way. They resent me because I left the pain behind, and they're determined to make me pay for it. But they don't have proof." Whispers filled the gallery. Some onlookers scowled at his arrogance. Others leaned forward, wanting to know how far he'd push it. The judge raised an eyebrow, but said nothing, letting the show run its course. Kody's attorney adjusted his tie, attempting to keep up with the confidence of his client. But beneath the table his foot tapped anxiously. He had known men like Kody before. Men who thought that charm would win out over the truth. Occasionally it did, occasionally it didn't. And today, the truth was lurking just around the bend. Christine's lawyer strikes. When Kody was done, Christine's attorney rose, his movements both slow and calculated. The way a predator stalks prey. He was a large man with piercing eyes. The sort of attorney who understood the value of both silence and words. "Proof?" he echoed, his voice ringing through the courtroom. "Mr. Brown says there is no proof. Let's put it to the test." With a theatric flair he tossed a thick sheaf of papers onto the prosecution's table. The thud reverberated like a shot. "These," he went on, "are records of his finances. Transfers, bank accounts in aliases not Mr. Brown's, but accounts traced back to him nonetheless. Money kept from his wives. Money kept from this family. Money that was intended for them." Gasps echoed in the courtroom. Christine leaned forward, her eyes blazing with triumph. She had waited years for this. Kody, though, didn't bat an eye. He grinned even wider. "Anyone can falsify documents," he said with a calmness that unnerved. Those records don't prove anything. The lawyer took a step closer to the judge. Your Honor, those are not falsified. Those are directly from banks. They document Mr. Brown depositing family money into secret funds. And we have more. The hidden promises. The attorney extracted another folder, this one thinner but so much more deadly. And here, Your Honor, are written contracts, vows from Mr. Brown himself, to support these women, to love them equally, to never leave them financially or emotionally. He paused again, then waved a single sheet of paper in the air. And this is written in Mr. Brown's own hand, signed, dated. The wives fidgeted. Meri's lips pressed into a tighter line. Janelle's eyes flashed with anger. Christine's fists clenched. The judge waved at the papers. Reading them, the courtroom was silent once more. Kody's smirk faltered for the shortest moment, but he covered it up right away. These are my personal notes. Kody sneered. Not contracts. I might have put pen to paper years ago, but they don't mean anything. Just words. Christine's attorney took a step forward. His voice loud. Meaningless to these women. They were everything. To this family, they were the foundation. And now we see your promises were empty. You drained finances, you broke loyalty, and you walked away. Meri's silent fury. It was at those words that Meri finally gazed up. For the first time since the trial started, her eyes clashed with Kody. He felt as though the intensity of her gaze was a knife to the heart. Meri had suffered more than anyone. She had been there at the start, when Kody was young and ambitious, and dreamed of creating a family empire. She had believed in him, when others didn't. She had given him decades of her life, and this was his way of thanking her. By casting her aside, running through resources, and then acting like it was all her doing. Meri didn't say anything, but her silence was more powerful than words. Her tears glittered, but refused to fall. Her eyes were chill, unwavering, unforgiving. Kody shifted restlessly. For an instant his bravado faltered. Janelle's revelation. Then stood Janelle's attorney. Unlike Christine's attorney, she wasn't there to create drama. She was there to cut through it. Your Honor, she started slowly. My client has gone through years of financial statements. She has followed every dollar, every lost cent, every suspicious transfer. What we discovered was appalling. Not only did Mr. Brown conceal money, he did so while his wives struggled to put food on the table for their children. The courtroom burst into gasps again. Reporters wrote furiously. Cameras flashed. Janelle rose to her feet, grasping a folder of her own. She addressed the judge directly, her voice firm. I handled the household finances for years. I know every expense. I know what came in and went out, and I know what vanished. I can document it. Kody's fists clenched. She's lying, he growled. She always hated me, always tried to control the finances. Janelle didn't bat an eye. She just set out the papers in front of the judge. The numbers don't lie. He does. Kody's mask slips. The murmurs in the gallery increased, bordering on deafening. People leaned in, some shaking their heads in shock, others nodding with grim approval. Kody attempted to keep his smirk intact, but the cracks were appearing. His jaw tightened. His fingers drummed the table in anger. He glanced at the judge, hoping to take control. Your Honor, this is a circus. These women are angry. They desire vengeance, not justice. They're distorting facts to portray me as a monster. The judge didn't argue. He was still scanning the documents, his forehead furrowing deeper with each page. Christine moved closer to her attorney, her voice low. He's afraid. Look at him. He's finally afraid. Kody heard her. His head jerked around to look at her, eyes burning. But Christine didn't back down. She glared right back at him, with her own fury, and for the first time ever, he blinked first. The foreshadowing of doom. And as the day went on, more was revealed. Transfers, contracts, bank records. Bit by bit, the walls of Kody's defense came tumbling down. But still he held on to confidence, to arrogance, to the idea that he could talk his way out of it. What he didn't know, what no one in that room knew yet, was that this was just the start. Because beyond the books, beyond the vows, beyond the rage of his wives, there was something else in store. Something far worse. A witness. A face from his past. Someone who possessed the ability to annihilate him entirely. But for the moment, the tension was maintained. For the moment, the courtroom observed as Kody Brown grinned with an increasingly weak smile. A smile that could not conceal the tempest brewing just beyond the courtroom doors. And when the tempest broke, nothing, no smirk, no words, no charm, would stem the tide. The gavel fell once more, drawing the courtroom back into order. But no one's pulse quickened. The air was dense, nearly choking, as if the truth itself were fighting to escape. Meri leaned in close to Janelle, her voice a breath cut glass fine. This is it. He can't hide from the truth forever. Kody listened to her, his jaw locked, but he didn't turn. He wouldn't give her the pleasure of witnessing his fury. Not here. Not now. His attorney stood, his tone rapid, frantic. Objection, Your Honor. These papers are circumstantial at best. Transfers do not indicate deceit. Agreements penned years earlier cannot be considered contracts. This is all smoke and mirrors. The judge gave him a stare that could freeze a hurricane. Sit down, counselor. The evidence is there for scrutiny. The lawyer sat, his face reddening. Kody gave him a glare, but too late. The judge had made the point. The papers weren't going to disappear. The tension tightens. Christine's attorney did not hesitate. He walked slowly, enjoying each step, each sentence. Your Honor, these papers are not smoke. They are fire. And fire burns away lies. He paused theatrically, allowing the words to linger. The courtroom hummed with the energy of a beehive, restless, famished for more. And then he fell silent. He shut the folder. We won't enter this evidence yet. Gasps, bemusement. Even the judge cocked his head. Christine spun around. What are you saying? She breathed coldly. Her attorney regarded her with a look of equal parts warning and assurance. Timing, he breathed. Just trust me. Christine settled back, restless. She disliked waiting. She wanted everyone to see Kody's deception now. But she clenched her jaw and said nothing. Janelle, though, was not so patient. She spoke to her lawyer in a harsh whisper. Why quit now? We had him trapped. Because, her lawyer whispered back. Cornered animals bite. Let him believe he still has territory. The fall will be greater. Kody's smile returns. Kody sat up straight, feeling vulnerable. See, he asserted, his voice laced with conceit. They make allegations, but when it comes down to substantiating them, they stay behind. It's a game. They're performing a charade for you, Your Honor. But I won't be played. He crossed his arms over his chest, bestowing the courtroom with a self-satisfied smile. For an instant it seemed he had once again taken charge. Control is tenuous, and in that room it was ebbing from his grasp like sand. The request for a witness. Christine's attorney at last interrupted the silence. Your Honor, prior to bringing forth additional evidence, the plaintiffs asked that they be allowed one additional witness. The courtroom was filled with whispers. Witness? Who would it be? Reporters scribbled furiously, pens ablaze. Spectators turned their heads. The judge held up his hand, quieting the din. Very well, call your witness. Christine's attorney turned to the rear of the courtroom. His voice pealed like a bell. We call the last voice of truth. The heavy wooden doors groaned open. The mystery figure. The echo of footsteps rang out across the marble floor. Slow, deliberate. Each step was a countdown. A figure moved in, shrouded in a black hood. The material concealed their face, their identity. The courtroom leaned forward in unison, holding its breath. Kody froze. His smirk vanished. His eyes went wide, for a mere second, but it was sufficient. Sufficient for Christine to notice. Sufficient for Meri to see. Sufficient for Janelle to lean forward and whisper, he knows them. The figure did not hurry. They moved with intent, the weight of every step speaking volumes. When finally they arrived at the witness stand, they stood, the hood still low. State your name, the judge instructed. The figure slowly raised their head, but still hid their face behind the hood. Their voice was even, measured. Your Honor, my name is not what is important today. What is important is the truth I hold. Gasps erupted in the courtroom. The judge scowled. You will pull back the hood when you testify. The figure touched their hand to the fabric. They pulled it back, slowly, purposefully, exposing a face that rocked the room. Kody's reaction. Kody's chair creaked as he leapt to his feet, his face pale, lips shaking. No, not you. The gallery erupted into chaos. Reporters yelled, pens moving across paper. The wives spun about, eyes wide, attempting to comprehend what they were witnessing. Christine's breath was caught in her throat. Meri clapped a hand over her mouth. Janelle's face relaxed into anger. The judge bellowed, hammering the gavel. Order! Order in this court. But there was no order. Not anymore. The declaration. The witness leaned forward, eyes locked on Kody. Their voice rang out clear and sharp. I know everything. Silence. Pure, suffocating silence. The words echoed in every mind, bouncing against the walls, cutting through the noise. Christine's heart pounded in her chest. Meri's hands trembled. Janelle leaned forward, whispering, "This is it. He's finished." Kody's face contorted with hysteria. He whirled around to his lawyer. Do something. Make them stop this. But his lawyer remained seated, mouth agape. Even he hadn't thought that would happen. The judge intervenes. The judge leaned forward, his voice firm. You say you know it all. Then you will give this court evidence. Facts. Not theatrics. The witness set a fat folder on the table. All you need is contained here. Transfers, contracts, letters, and evidence of what Kody Brown orchestrated far before this trial started. Kody's knees almost gave way. He clutched the edge of the table to keep himself upright. Lies, he bellowed. This is all lies. But nobody was convinced. No longer. The suspense grows. The judge didn't open the folder yet. He rapped it once, his face impassive. This court will recess tomorrow morning. Evidence will be examined in private prior to presentation. The gavel came down. The courtroom exploded into bedlam. Journalists yelled questions. Spectators gasped and guessed. The wives shared shocked, silent glances. And Kody dropped into his chair, his face ashen, his confidence broken. The storm had landed, and tomorrow it would burst wide open. The courthouse steps the following morning resembled a war zone, not a court of justice. There were hordes of reporters scrambling about, cameras clicking, microphones stuck out in front like bayonets. Who is the secret witness? Is Kody Brown concealing millions? Are the sister wives finally receiving justice? Within, the air crackled with edgy tension. The crowd was packed, standing room only. There were fans of the show, curious strangers, but they all craved the same thing, the truth. The wives sat together in a rare show of unity. Meri's jaw was clenched. Janelle tapped her fingers nervously against the bench, and Christine's eyes burned with determination. For years Kody had divided them. But today in this courtroom, they were one. Kody came last, his attorney by his side. His suit was crisp, his hair slicked back, but his eyes gave him away. They flashed jumpy, like an outnumbered man, caught in a corner. He breathed hot into his lawyer's face, but the lawyer shook his head again and again, helpless. The gavel came down. Court is now in session. The tempest was brewing. The witness returns. The creaking doors opened wide again. The same person appeared yesterday. No hood today. Their face could be seen now, and the courtroom burst out in gasps. It was one the family had trusted before. One who had remained quiet all these years. One no one would have suspected to oppose Kody. The judge held up a hand. Order in court. Let the witness be seated. The witness moved forward, each step deliberate, as if they were walking out of the shadows and into the light. Their folder of evidence was clutched tightly in their hands. Kody's voice cracked as he shouted, "You don't belong here. You're not part of this." But the judge slammed the gavel. "Mr. Brown, one more outburst and you'll be removed." Kody sank back into his chair, trembling with rage. The first blow. The witness raised his right hand, took the oath, and sat down. He put the thick folder on the table, with a heavy thud. Christine's lawyer came forward. "Tell the court your relationship to Mr. Brown." The witness did not look away from Kody. "I worked for him. I ran his business accounts. I saw everything." A ripple of shock moved through the courtroom. "Do you mean to say you were in charge of the financial reports Mr. Brown provided for his family businesses?" "Yes, and I can show he falsified them." The audience gasped. Reporters frantically wrote. The judge leaned forward, now focused. Kody's attorney jumped to his feet. "Objection. This witness is obviously prejudiced. They have an axe to grind." The judge overruled him. Overruled. Go on. The evidence opens. The witness pushed the folder down the table. Christine's attorney opened it, removing a sheaf of papers. He gave the top one to the judge. This, he placed it high for everyone in the courtroom to see, is a signed switch from one of Mr. Brown's businesses to a secret personal account. A bank account that was never revealed to his wives. Gasps, murmurs. The gallery hummed like a storm. The attorney handed over the next document. And that is a letter, signed by Mr. Brown himself, assuring his wives that all of the dimes earned in the business would go into a family account shared by all of them. He promised them equality. But while they were struggling, he established a secret empire in his own name. Meri's eyes welled with tears. Janelle's lips were pursed in a thin line of anger. Christine's hands held the bench so tightly her knuckles whitened. Kody sprang up once more. Those are fakes. Lies. The witness's voice sliced through the commotion. They're not fakes. I held the originals. And I held copies. Every signature, every date, every transfer, it's all there. The hidden betrayal. The attorney drew out another page. This one was different. Older. Delicate. This, Your Honor, is a private letter from Mr. Brown to one of his wives. He glanced squarely at Robin, who sat quietly in the back of the courtroom, vowing that after the other wives were gone, she would have it all. The houses, the bank accounts, the future, all for their cost. The room erupted. Reporters yelled out questions. The wives whipped around, shocked, at Robin. Her face white, her eyes wide, she stood in the crossfire. Meri breathed softly, heartbroken. So it was true. It was always her. Christine spun around, shaking with anger. All these years we thought we weren't good enough. But it was never us. It was his scheme. Janelle's fists balled. He manipulated us, every one of us. Kody pounded his fist on the table. You don't get it. I had to defend my future. I had to defend what was mine. The judge's voice boomed. That's enough, Mr. Brown. The collapse bit by bit, paper by paper, the truth unraveled. Transfers under veiled names, written promises made, then broken, accounts constructed in secrecy. The wives sat in appalled silence, as the years of deceit piled on top of one another. All they had given up, every tear, every concession, every child born in a home of shattered vows was exposed. Christine stood at last, her voice shaking. So all this time, while we gave up, while we believed you, while we gave you our lives, you were scheming our demise. Kody's face contorted, but he did not respond. He could not. Meri's voice cracked. You said I was the issue. You told me that I wasn't enough. But it was never about me, was it? It was about you. Janelle shook her head, with bitterness. We never were wives. We were pieces in your game. The shocking confession. The judge looked at Kody. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to say regarding these accusations, to these documents, to promises made in your own handwriting? Kody stood, shaking. His voice cracked, louder than he intended. Yes, I confess it. I constructed something for me. I couldn't bear all of them anymore. I chose Robin, and I don't regret it. The room was silent, silent in shock, silent in disbelief. He went on, his words cracking with rage. I invested decades of my life in them. And what did I receive? Grievances. Betrayal? I was owed something for myself. So yes, I took it. I created a future. For myself. For Robin. The other people, they never comprehended. Gasp filled the courtroom. The admission lingered in the air. The wives glared at him, broken but justified. The judge's face tightened. Mr. Brown, your statements will be taken on record as a confession of lies. The consequences in the room. Christine buried her face and wept. Janelle closed her eyes, finally realizing the truth she had long suspected. Meri turned aside, her expression unreadable, but one tear rolled down her cheek. Robin sat motionless, hands clasped around her lap, so hard her knuckles were white. She did not move. She did not speak. And Kody in the center of the courtroom, not a patriarch, not a leader, but a bare man exposed for all to see. The gavel rang. This court will recess for the day. We will reconvene tomorrow for judgment and sentencing. But no one stirred. Not yet.
The truth was too formidable, the betrayal too profound. The Kody Brown empire had fallen, and tomorrow, the final blow would come. The following day, the courthouse was noisier than ever before. News trucks parked along the road, reporters elbowed one another, and the crowd outside chanted, eager to find out how Kody Brown's saga would unfold. The news had gone viral overnight, social media on fire, hashtags trending. Fans and critics alike stuck to each new post. Within, the air was stifling. Each bench was occupied. Each set of eyes was focused upon the defendant's table, where Kody slumped, his bravado broken. His slicked back hair now flowed loose, his suit rumpled. The arrogant patriarch of the first day of trial had disappeared. In his stead sat a man bereft of mastery. The wives sat together once more, Meri, Janelle, and Christine closer to one another than they had been in years. They were not here for vengeance. They were here for justice.
The gavel came down. Court is now in session. This was the day that the hammer would fall. The judge's stern words. Judge Harris pushed up his glasses, surveying the heavy stack of evidence now stacked on his bench. We have heard testimony. We have examined documents. We have received confessions. His gaze turned to Kody. Mr. Brown, this court finds your conduct, your deception, your betrayal, and your manipulation disturbing. Kody shifted uncomfortably, jaw clenched, fists balled. The judge went on, his tone cutting. Marriage is founded upon trust. Family is founded upon honesty. You, sir, betrayed both of them, and you did that knowingly, over and over, and without apology until this confession yesterday. The audience stirred. The wives sat stunned, their hearts racing. Therefore, the judge stated pointedly, it is now time for this court to pass judgment. The division of power. Christine's attorney stood. Your Honor, we request the wives be given rightful ownership of the common family assets. They gave their lives for the family, while Mr. Brown diverted funds for himself. Kody's attorney leapt up. Your Honor, that's ridiculous. My client created those assets. He was the provider, the head. The judge brought down the gavel. Enough. Sit down. The courtroom fell quiet. Judge Harris addressed the wives. You invested your years, loyalty, and trust in this man. He misused it. As a result, this court awards you an equal share of all known family properties, businesses, and accounts. Each wife will have sole control of her portion. Meri gasped, tears streaming down her face. Janelle's lips parted in shock. Christine clutched her attorney's arm, relief written on her face. For the first time in years, they weren't helpless. They weren't addicted. They were free. Kody's desperate plea, but Kody sprang to his feet, slamming his hands on the table. No, you can't do this. That's my legacy, my empire. The judge glared at him. Mr. Brown, sit down, or I'll have you removed. But Kody didn't let up. His voice climbed, mad with desperation. They're nothing without me. They needed me. They'll come apart without me. And you know it. The audience gasped, the faces unsoftened, each word a cut. Finally, Christine rose, her voice cut through, pure and sharp. You're wrong, Kody. We don't need you. We never did. We supported you. We gave up everything, while you plotted in the perfect triple. And now, we'll do it alone. The gallery burst into cheers and claps until the judge called order again. Kody sank back into his seat, beaten, his words echoing empty in the air. The witness's final blow. The mystery witness stood once more. Your Honor, before this judgment is finalized, I'd like to submit one last record. The judge nodded. Proceed. The witness handed over a final document, a sealed letter written by Kody years earlier. It was titled Plan for the Future. Inside, in his own handwriting, he had written out his ultimate intention: sever relationships with his older wives, bring the power and resources under his name, and begin anew with Robyn as his only true partner. The courtroom gasped once more. Meri covered her mouth in horror. Janelle whispered, so it really was always planned. Christine shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Robyn remained still, her face ashen, powerless to protect herself or her husband. The judge pounded the gavel once more. This is conclusive evidence that your treachery was planned, Mr. Brown. You didn't just betray your wives, you conspired to wipe them out. The words hung in the air like a death warrant. The judge's final verdict. The judge's voice sliced through the oppressive silence. This court hereby rules. All hidden and revealed assets shall be shared between the wives. Mr. Brown is directed to pay restitution for the money diverted into secret accounts. Mr. Brown's business acumen is suspended pending investigation into fraudulent activities. Finally, this court acknowledges the emotional abuse suffered by the wives and recognizes their right to bring civil claims if they wish. The gavel rang down. Case closed. The room exploded into chaos. Applause, gasps, reporters shouting questions. But for the wives, the noise faded into the background. They were free. Finally, undeniably free. The aftermath. Wives United. Christine stood first, wiping her tears but holding her head high. "We did it," she whispered. Janelle nodded, her voice steady. "We're free." Meri hesitated, years of pain still heavy on her shoulders. But then she smiled faintly, the first genuine smile in years. "No, we're more than free. We're stronger than ever." They linked hands, three women once divided, now bound together by survival, truth and justice. The audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering. The wives walked out of the courtroom, not as victims, but as victors. Kody's fall. Kody was left sitting, slumped over in his chair, eyes blazing with anger. His empire was lost, his wives were lost, his money was lost, and the worst part, his control was lost. Robin leaned in close to him, speaking something only he could hear. For the first time, Kody said nothing. His silence spoke louder than words. Journalists surrounded him as he was led out, their queries exploding like gunfire. "Kody, do you regret it? Kody, will you appeal the decision? Kody, do you still support Robin?" But Kody Brown remained silent. His silence was the whisper of a man whose empire had collapsed. The final words outside the court. Christine addressed the cameras. "This wasn't about money. This was about truth. For years folks saw us smiling on television, but our lives were suffering. Today we stood up. Today we took back our lives." Meri spoke softly, too. "No woman should ever be held hostage by another's deception. If our tale teaches anything, it is this. You can endure betrayal, and you can emerge stronger." Janelle smiled. "This is not the end. This is the beginning." The crowd exploded in cheers, the light bulbs flashing to capture the instant the wives walked away from the courthouse together, free and unbroken. And Kody, he lingered in the shadows, witnessing the women he once ruled enter a future without him. The last hammer had dropped. The courtroom war was over, and the kingdom of Kody Brown was at an end.